you doing? I hope you're well. I'm Diana and welcome to my channel. Today I have another book recommendation for you, and this time we are going to be tackling my second favorite trope, which is fated mates. I fully blame my Twilight infused paranormal romance phase for my deep undying love for this trope. There is something extra special about reading a romance with the fated mates trope, just knowing that with absolute certainty this couple is going to get together. So without further ado, let's get on to the books. First up, I would be remiss not to mention my all-time favorite series, which is the Psy Changeling series by Nalini Singh, where Slave to Sensation is the first book. So in this book, we have a quite unique world. We're set in the near future. I think it's like 2080 or something like that. And we have humans, Psy, who have psychic abilities such as, telekinesis, premonition, teleportation, things like that. And then we have the changelings, who are the shifters of this world. And for better or for worse, in the 1960s, the Psy Council, who were the ruling council of the Psy, decided that the Psy needed to introduce what was called the Silence Protocol. And this meant using cutting-edge behavioral psychology to essentially wipe emotions from the Psy. So they currently are seen as this cool, emotionless, and slightly ruthless but wholly logical beings. And then we've got our changelings, who are what I love about this world. We have leopards and wolves and lynxes and bears. If you've read the series, the bears are the best. And they're considered to be wholly primal and almost uncultured, as they cannot help but give in to their animal instincts. This first book, we follow Sasha Duncan, who is the daughter to one of the Psy Council members, Nikita, and she is kind of struggling. The older she gets, she realizes that her silence might not be completely silent, for lack of a better word, and she is finding flaws in her emotional makeup. She is doing everything she can to shield herself to ensure that no one notices her slip-ups, because any Psy who is seen to break silence is basically taken away and lobotomized. She's working at one of her mother's companies, which is essentially this massive real estate conglomeration, and they are working to diversify their market by teaming up with a changeling pack to see if they can develop houses for changelings, which is where she meets Lucas Hunter, who is the alpha of the San Francisco leopard pack called Dark River. Now, Lucas is also looking to help his pack diversify their money moving forward, but more importantly, he is using this deal as a way to get close to Sasha and the Psy and see if they know anything about a serial killer who's currently on the loose hunting, kidnapping, and torturing and murdering changeling women, and it is their romance. The impacts of what Sasha and Lucas do in this book has a massive effect on the Psy and the Psynet. So basically all of the Psy need to have a constant psychic loop to remain alive, and they essentially all hook up to this sentient cybernet. And yes, it is very cool. And yes, just the repercussions of this book has a massive impact, and the way the macro plot in this series is absolutely insane. This series follows a different couple each book, and the way that each couple romance is so fully contained, so immersive in their fated mates trope, but also pushes along the macro plot is impeccable, and I am fully obsessed. Now, there is a lot, as you can tell by the top here, there is a lot of books out. I believe book 24 is coming out later this year, but don't stress. The world building and the characters and the romance in each book is so captivating that you'll fly through it. I think I picked up this series when there was about 18 books out, and I read them in 3 months. I just couldn't get enough. So if you haven't already tried the Psy Changeling series, this is my PSA to say, please pick it up. I am sure you will adore it. Keeping on the shifter train, my next recommendation is True Immortality by S. Young. The first 3 books have been released, and we have a title and cover for book 4, but no current release date. And this book takes place in Europe, which I absolutely love this setting. And we follow a girl named Thea Quinn, who is currently on the run. She has these abilities but doesn't know what she is, and just knows that people will hunt her down for these abilities, including her, I believe it's a stepfather from memory. And she is hiding out, backpacking her way through Europe to keep herself safe. And then we have Donald McLennan, who is the alpha and chief of the McLennan clan in Scotland. And he has been hired by a mysterious businessman to hunt down a ruthless killer, as he is considered one of the best werewolf trackers. The biggest draw for Connell taking the job is the fact that this businessman claims to have found a cure for a currently incurable lycanthropy disease, which his sister has. So he takes this contract to track and bring this woman, this dangerous killer, alive in hopes of saving his sister. And Connell is able to track down his murderer, a girl named Thea. And I just love the way that, just the way their chemistry together, like Connell is pretty courteous for a man who's essentially kidnapped Thea and she has no idea. And the miscommunication about who is just gold. And I love that they're basically on this road trip back to the Highlands in Scotland, and it's just so good. I will say as well, the lore in this series is incredible. We've got vampires as well as werewolves in this, but the way she's able to twist what we traditionally know, what vampires are and how they were created, and what werewolves are and how they were created, is so good. I was absolutely captivated and I just loved this twist. I will be waiting with bated breath for book 4 to come out. Next up, we have a new favorite of mine, which has wormed its way into my heart, and that is A Wolf in the Garden by Allegra Hall. This is a impeccable small town, second chance, fated mates, monster romance, and I am obsessed. So this book takes place in the Southern Island in New Zealand and follows a girl named Ali. Ali is a landscape gardener and designer by trade, and she is also half Maori. And I just adore the way that Allegra is able to seamlessly weave in Ali's culture in the way that Ali uses Maori traditions to landscape gardens and plant her gardens, and she weaves in Maori words in. It's just so natural and it's so organic and so beautifully done. I should say the Maori are the indigenous people of New Zealand, and I completely adored being introduced to this culture. So Ellie is half Maori and half unknown. She doesn't know much about her father, and in this world it becomes extra tricky because a few years ago there was an event called the Unveiling where the supernatural world was unveiled to us mere mortals. And we woke up one day to discover that werewolves and gargoyles and shifters and vampires and ogres and witches all existed and had been living in plain sight. That's pretty traumatic for someone who knew their identity, but it's extra hard for someone like in Ellie's position who thought she was human, was very settled in her identity, and woke up the next morning with pointed ears. That's something she's kept hidden as she's seen the prejudice that is sprung through communities after these supernatural creatures were announced to the world. And then we have our main hero, Van. So Van and Ali grew up together. His family holidayed in New Zealand and they had a wild summer romance. And unfortunately, a tragedy struck and has separated them. Van is in New Zealand. He bought up the local winery and is determined to get Ali back. She also notices there's something a little bit different about Van. Since the unveiling, she now can see that he is half werewolf and half wolf shifter. And I just love that this book is massive, but I flew through it. We have these beautiful slice of life, small town moments as Ali and Van work together on his vineyard. She's been hired to help landscape some of the property. And then we also have this mystery kind of plot as we figure out what Ali's father's heritage is and is she in any danger from her people. And then we have some wonderfully wild and steamy monster romance scenes. If you are into wolfmen, you know it's not so fun. Sorry. I couldn't help myself. That pun was right there. If you know, you know. So I am completely captivated by this book, this world, and I am so excited to get more from this series. If you are like me and were completely and are completely obsessed with the MCU, but you know, wanting something that's MCU vibes, but with a killer fated mate romance and lots of steam, I give you the Deadly Seven series by Lana Perhacek. First book being Envy. I love this world. I'm a big superhero fan, so I'm so glad that we have superhero romances. So in this world, we have the Lazarus siblings have been created to be super soldiers. Their creation was funded by the Vatican, and they have the ability to sense sin. Essentially, the Vatican was going to use them as a way to wipe out sin and create a perfect utopian. The lead scientist and essentially mother of these children discovered that some people at the Vatican had twisted the idea that was originally implemented and were essentially going to unleash these super soldiers, these mass weapons, and potentially wipe out anyone with even a little iota of sin. The siblings escape with the help of a assassin nun and a rogue scientist and end up growing up and being trained to be these vigilante fighters. And yeah, I completely love it. Just before they escape, the mother is able to essentially lock away some extra powers, which will be only unlocked when each of the siblings finds their perfect opposite. And first book, we have the Lazarus family not coping well after a mass tragedy. In fact, Evan is considered to be blamed for the whole thing. So they're kind of on a self-destructing path, Evan included. He's still trying to, keep the vigilante spirit alive, superhero spirit alive, but is relegated himself to underground street fighting. The siblings have tattoos, which Evan did, as he's a tattoo artist, to make sure they can keep themselves in check. They need to be perfectly balanced, not feeling too much sin or not feeling the absence of their sin. Otherwise, if in either case, they will black out and go full mass destructive weapon. And they're all really struggling with dealing with themselves as a family, but also dealing with who they are and their sin. And after a particularly nasty cage fight, Evan finds his way in the arms of a beautiful doctor named Grace Go. Grace turns out to have not a single ounce of envy. Like with the Psy Changeling series, the macro plot in this world is absolutely bonkers. In fact, the last book, Despair, left me in tears. Each sibling gets their own story and the way they're able to push along the plot as the special branch of the Vatican known as the Syndicate are trying to hunt down their missing weapons, and it was so good. Speaking of series that absolutely keep you hooked and captivated the entire time despite many cliffhanger endings which leave you in tatters, my next recommendation is the Bonds That Tie series by Jay Bree. The cliffhanger endings in this are real, so luckily for you, all 6 books are out and you can binge to your heart's content. This series, we follow a girl named Oleander who is one of the most gifted people in their community. I don't believe they've got an actual official name, but they give me kind of like mutant X-Men vibes. And Oleander has been on the run after her mother and her mother's bonded have been attacked. In this world, I believe it's a blood test. Through blood tests, you're able to find your bonds and essentially your fated mates. After her family is murdered, her bonds think that she is going to come home and they will take care of her, but she does the exact opposite and ends up on the run. It's years later and her men have finally found her and they're ready to bestow a touch of the pain and suffering that she sent their way after leaving. So this does start as a bully romance, but the way that Knox, North, Griffin, Gabe, and Atlas are able to come around to their relationship and the way that they're able to slowly discover what happened to Ollie and who is after her is incredible. So we do have a bit of a beat the bad guy kind of thing, this like kind of good versus rogue people in their community, and it is crazy. The way this ended and the way we figure out what's up with Ollie's powers and how that transfers to her bonds is crazy, and I'm sure I missed some things, so I'm looking forward to rereading this and seeing if I can pick up those little clues that I'm sure J. Bree planted in the start of the series. Another Waichu series with a absolutely fascinating world. This is like angels and demons with a Greek myth twist, which I am fully obsessed with, which is the State of Grace series by Colette Rhodes. In this series, we are following Grace, who is an Agos woman. The Agos have been created by Gaia, who is obviously Mother Earth, nurturing wonderful Gaia, who has gifted humanity with the Agos as a way to help support and uplift them. They provide gifts such as luck and knowledge, and are able to make sure that humans get the best out of life. They have a very, very hierarchical system where everyone is supposed to do everything for the community and for humanity as a whole. One of the things which Grace is failing at is that coming up to 25, she should have found all 4 of her bonded. However, she is still single and is starting to become a bit of an embarrassment to her family and a drain on the society. She is working in a shelter, and her gift is to bestow luck, which has some nasty consequences, which isn't super glamorous, but any luck that she gives to humans is thrown back to her as bad luck, which I just absolutely love that concept, because I always think if good luck happens, bad luck is not too far behind. She is out late one night on the wrong side of the tracks, where she sees one of the women that she helped in a shelter who is currently in the arms of a mystery demon. Now, as you can imagine, demons are the opposite of the Agos, and they are the children of Nyx. They are the chaos bearers, I guess, in this world, and they spark humans to lust and anger and depression. They are the darkness that haunts humanity, for a lack of a better word. So not only is Grace not supposed to cross paths with demons, she's also not supposed to find this man to be the first of her 4 bonds. And I love this series. I love that we get to see this perfect, shiny world of the Agos slowly crumble, and we realize that maybe they are manipulating their original calling and have twisted it to be something that is self-serving to them. So Grace and her guys go on this adventure to take down a tyrannical ruler. And I just love the romance development in here, the way each book introduces a new one of Grace's bonds, and we see her slowly get to know each other and develop their relationship, and it looks different each time because they are all different people, and it's just completely beautiful, and I am fully obsessed with this series. Greek myths, angels, demons, fated mates. What more could I ask for? For my last 2, we are going to go with some Fae romances. I love the Fae, and it would be remiss of me not to include these series. So first up, I have the Tairen Soul series by C.L. Wilson. Now, if you are a big fan of Rysand, I mean, who isn't, from the Akatar series, may I introduce you to King Rain, who is Rysand on steroids. This man, I am in love. So in this world, we have King Rain, who is the Tairen Soul and king of the Fae. 1,000 years ago, there was this big battle between the Fae and the Warlocks, and they suffered a lot of losses. So they've hidden themselves away in the Fading Lands, the Fae lands, and to try and recoup their losses. However, they thought that the humans would continue to fight the good fight against the Warlocks. However, that might not be going as well as they originally thought. We also have a bigger problem, is that the Fae are unable to reproduce, and the Tairen, who are these cat-like creatures, they're like giant cats with dragon wings, they're kind of cool. They are the magic wielders of this world, and they are slowly dying out. And Rain doesn't know how to save the Tairen and to save his people. So he decides to embark on a diplomatic envoy to the human realms in hopes of finding a cure for what ails the Tairens, and also once and for all defeating the Warlocks. To everyone's surprise, including Rain, he finds his fated mate in the arms of a human girl, a woodcarver's daughter called Aliseta. it is a big surprise as fated mates are supposed to be of equal power to each other. Now he was quite surprised and put off to start with, but the way he apologizes for that and the way he courts her is so swoon-worthy. So not only do we have this beautiful, swoon-worthy, slow burn, courtship, fated mates situation between Rain and Aliceta, we have this amazingly intricate fantasy war and political intrigue, which are two of my other buzzwords. And we slowly learn more about what's happened in the past, that the warlocks might have gone a bit covert and are still fighting the good fight. And we find out a little bit more about Allie's history. These are the old covers of this series. They did get a recover. I'll put the cover here. But I'm sorry, I'm fully obsessed with these old covers. They are such a mood. And last but not least, we have another new favorite of mine, which is The Prince of Prohibition by Marilyn Marks. This is the first book in her Fae of the Warring Age series, and I am so obsessed. When I tell you that this book is The Cruel Prince meets The Great Gatsby, I mean, doesn't that sound incredible? Reading this, I was like, oh my God. The debauchery and glamour and slight danger of the 1920s fits so well with fae and fairy folklore that it's just seamless, and I'm so surprised no one's done this before. So we follow a young girl named Adeline Colton. She grew up in a small town in Georgia and is considered to be cursed because she sees devils. Her father has kept her and her brother on this small farm where he does everything he can to protect her from the devils, including things like salt rings, and when she leaves she has to wear her shoes backwards and her clothes backwards and wear bells in her pockets, and it's the links and the hits and the nods to traditional Celtic folklore is just incredible. I am fully obsessed. So each month on the full moon, I believe it is, she gets visited by a man who she assumes is the devil, and he promises that she will become his. Adeline is a bit stuck with what to do. She's very stuck in her ways in terms of how her dad's taught her to keep up with these traditions. However, after her dad passes away and her brother has come back from World War I, severely tortured and has lost his hearing, they are struggling to keep the farm going and struggling to find work. However, luckily for her brother, he is offered a job with the FBI. However, that does mean that the pair have to move to New York. And while there, Addie meets the devil prince of her dreams, a man named Jack Warren, who is the mafia kingpin of this world, and Fae Prince. If you love a morally grey man, he gives me Kaz Brekker meets Hayden from The Cruel Prince. I don't know, maybe it's The Cruel Prince because he's Fae. He definitely gives me Kaz Brekker vibes, like absolutely. And it takes off from there. Again, I just love the little nods we have to the Fae and the folklore. Like absinthe in this world, which they are bootlegging in the 20s, is actually fairy wine, and I am so obsessed. Adeline joins Jack's band of merry men, and we have this incredible found family, and they are trying to stop a very dangerous man, which leads to a couple of heists and a very slow burn romance, which ends in a lot of steam. I flew through this one. I absolutely devoured The Veil of Violence, which is a bit darker than this one, and I cannot wait to see how this series wraps up. So there you have it. There are some of my favorite fated mates romances. If you want to see more of my content, please like and subscribe. I'm going to be posting new videos every Sunday. I will link all the books in the description box below, along with any reviews if I have any. Also in the description box, you will find links to my other social media channels. If you want to follow or chat to me on another corner of the internet, have you read any of these books? Let me know, or let me know your favorite Fated Mates books, or you can leave the wolf emoji in the comments below. Anyway, that is all from me today, guys. I hope you're doing all kinds of well, and I will speak to you soon. See ya!